Welcome to StartupHakk. I'm Spencer Thomason, and here at StartupHakk, we love to train software developers and build custom software solutions. So I do a lot of work as a fractional CTO. With over a decade of executive leadership and a solid 25 years in software development, I've mastered the art of transforming technology teams and products. So General Motors just announced a huge layoff. It's a shocking move, especially from a company that's been pushing so hard into tech with their autonomous driving systems and digital services. So we've got a lot of the details here for you today, so we're going to dive in. All right, let's go ahead and dig into some of these reports. And so as we dive into these, General Motors just announced a huge layoff, over 1,000 salaried employees from their software and services division. It's a shocking move, especially from a company that's really been trying so hard to dive into tech with their autonomous driving systems and digital services. You'd think that as they double down on software, they'd need more developers, not fewer. But this layoff raises a lot of questions about what's really going on behind the scenes. Is GM facing financial difficulties, or is this a strategic shift in how they're managing their resources? Either way, it's a major development that could signal some deep-rooted changes inside of GM. So let's jump over to some of the reports really quick, and then we'll dive in on our breakdown a little bit further. So CNBC reports that GM lays off more than 1,000 salaried software and services employees. They're laying off 1,000 salaried software employees globally. So that's the first thing, too, is this is not just U.S., this is globally. In software and services division following a review to streamline the unit's operations. Now, globally, it'll be really interesting to see how much impact that is globally. The layoffs include roughly 600 jobs at General Motors Tech Campus near Detroit. So there you go, 600 here in the U.S. The job cuts represents about 1.3 of the company's global salaried workforce of 7,600 at the end of last year. So it's definitely a big hit, but the layoffs include roughly 600, as we talked about. And this is from the CEO. As we build GM's future, we must simplify for speed and excellence, making bold choices and prioritize the investment that will have the greatest impact, a GM spokesman said in an emailed statement. As a result, we've reduced certain teams within the software and services organizations. We're grateful to those who helped establish a strong foundation that positions GM to move forward. Now, I'm kind of wondering if this is still just some of the bloat from COVID, right, that we've seen a lot of these. And I think GM's just a pretty slow-moving machine, where fast-moving companies like Facebook did this, in January 2023. Here we have GM that's, obviously behind the curve because they're GM. Now, of course, their stocks were rewarded by this, as is the case in the bizarro world that is 2024. They confirmed the layoffs in a statement, under this guise of efficiency, right? And so it looks like a lot of these reports have, kind of the same thing over and over. Now, I'm not sure, I think GM's actually looked better than they have in a long time financially. Their last 4 quarters, they beat earnings each of the quarters, and so it's a beat for the last 4 quarters, which is both a beat on revenue and on earning per share. So financially, it can't really be the large reason, unless they're just seeing that they really need to shift a lot of that. Now, the only thing they're negative on is net cash, so maybe they're just having to scale back on R&D, because usually companies aren't doing a ton of R&D if they don't have a lot of cash. And like if you look at their second quarter earnings, they were actually pretty good. And so, as we saw here, but as you break down this report, generally a global focus on advancing on all electric futures and inclusive and accessible to all. At the heart of the strategy, they're going into battery performance. So they're digging in a lot on electric technology. So I'm not really sure, but ultimately, their finances look good. Their earnings before income looked good. Everything actually looked pretty solid for GM as I reviewed their finances, and this really kind of gives you the best high level here. So I'm not really totally sure if this is financially motivated or if there's something else going on. So why is GM making these cuts now? According to insiders, this is part of a broader cost-cutting strategy. So despite strong earning reports, GM is looking to streamline operations and perhaps focus on more profitable areas. But here's the kicker. Cutting software developers and service personnel might save money in the short term, but it could seriously hamper their long-term innovation. It's like cutting off your nose to spite your face. GM might be trying to balance the books, that they could be doing it at the risk of the future by letting go of the very people who are supposed to drive their digital transformation. Now, the thing that's hard about this is, We've seen this recently with Cisco. I'm going to talk about tomorrow morning. We've seen it with Intel. We've seen it over and over again. These companies that should be paying to innovate and are not. And so, here at StartupHakk, we love to train software developers because we believe that developers really help to drive the innovation of the future. So, so make sure you go check out our old videos because we have hundreds of different coding samples out there. We're at over 500 coding samples and videos to go with them. Now, these layoffs for GM couldn't come at a worse time for GM's tech initiatives. They've been heavily investing in autonomous driving with systems like Super Cruise and pushing into the digital services market. But by cutting the very teams that support these initiatives, they're putting all of that at a risk. The development of advanced software systems isn't something you can just hit pause on. It requires continuous innovation and support. So with fewer people working on these projects, GMs might find themselves falling behind the competition who are doubling down on their tech investments. This is a super risky move that could have really far-reaching consequences. Now, for the broader auto industry, to understand GM's decision, we need to look at the broader context of the auto industry. Legacy automakers like GM are under immense pressure to transform into tech companies as much as car manufacturers. This is because what Tesla's done to really drive at being a tech company. But this transformation is costly and it's complex. GM isn't alone in facing these challenges. Other traditional car companies are also grappling with this shift towards electric vehicles and autonomous driving. So what we're seeing right here might be a reflection of the struggles that these companies are facing as they try to stay relevant in a very rapidly changing market. Now, the question is whether GM's strategy will pay off or backfire in the long run. My thoughts is it's going to backfire in the long run. I don't think you want to be removing innovation at this point, especially if you're GM. They're already known to be behind the curve. So software is becoming the backbone of the auto industry. Everything from navigation systems to autonomous driving relies on complex code. So when a company like GM cuts software, it's a huge deal. These aren't just any employees. They're building the future of the transportation with software driving so much of what makes modern cars smart, safe, and efficient. You'd really think that GM would be hiring more developers, not fewer. So it makes me really wondering what's going on in there and if they're betting too much on outsourcing or on automation to fill the gap, which right now is a risky gamble based on my thoughts. So the layoffs also raise a question about GM's long-term strategy. Are they pulling back on their tech ambitions or are they just restructuring to become more efficient? Is this just laying off some of the COVID bloat that every company's had to do now? Because again, when money was free in 2020, 2021, and parts of 2022, these companies bloated up really bad, right? So cutting costs might help the bottom line today, but if they're doing it at the expense of future growth, they really could find themselves in a tough spot where they're already kind of behind anyways. So this is a critical moment for GM, and how they navigate it could determine on their place in the auto industry for years to come. Now, let's not forget the human side of the story. Over 1,000 employees now find themselves without a job. For many of them, GM was a stable long-term employer. But with these layoffs, that stability has been shattered. So for software developers who were let go, this could be a tough pill to swallow, especially in an industry where demand for tech talent is high right now. So this might be an opportunity for these developers, though, to bring their skills back to companies that are more focused on growth and innovation. So if you're one of these folks that are getting affected by this, feel free to hit me up down in the comments down below. I would love to hear some of the insider information and what your thoughts are on why these layoffs have happened. Here at StartupHakk, we love to train software developers, and I really love to help coach and work with software developers who are trying to place jobs. So in this tech world, even the biggest companies aren't immune to the pressures of changes. So what's next for GM? The company will need to prove that these layoffs are a strategic move, not a sign of deeper trouble. They've raised their full-year earning forecast, which suggests confidence in their finances. But the real test will be whether they can maintain their momentum in the tech space with fewer resources. GM is at a crossroad. Do they double down on innovation, or do they retreat to safer, more traditional grounds? So the decision they make in the next few months and over the next 18 months or so could really shape their future. Now, for developers, the GM layoffs are a stark reminder of the volatility in the tech market. Even within big companies, the key takeaway here is the importance of staying adaptable and making sure you're continuously working to improve your skills. The tech landscape is always changing, and what's in demand today might not be demand tomorrow. So by staying ahead of the curve, learning new technologies, and being ready to pivot, developers can protect themselves from this kind of disruption that we're seeing at GM. It's all about being proactive, not reactive, in a world where innovation is the only constant. So let's recap this today. GM's laid off over 100,000, or excuse me, over 1,000. If it was 100,000, that'd be a lot. 1,000 employees in their software and services division, and they've been let go globally. So again, only globally. 600 here in the U.S. for sure. And this raises questions about GM's long-term strategy and commitment to innovation. So we've explored the implications for their tech initiatives, the broader auto industry, and what this means for the future of GM. So the key takeaway, in an industry where software is becoming increasingly vital, these layoffs could have some really bad implications for GM. I, for one, think it's kind of a bad signal into the market to be like, hey, yeah, we're letting developers go. To me, it seems like you want to be trying to pile up about innovation right now. So, what are your thoughts? Do you agree? Do you disagree? I love having great, healthy discussions. A lot of my videos come off of feedback you guys give me and information you guys give me. So make sure you hit me up down in the comments down below, even if it's just to say hi. Here at StartupHakk, we love to train software developers in our coding bootcamp and to build custom software solutions for company. So if there's anything we can do to help in training, in coaching, or in building custom software solutions, make sure you reach out. Hit up startuphakk.com or startuphakk.com/Spencer. And make sure you leave a comment there and like and subscribe, and we will catch you guys next time. Make sure you like and subscribe to the channel because we bring you lots of great tutorials and tips that every developer should know. See you next time.